Welcome back to the channel. After extensive UCL fantasy coverage, the focus will now shift back towards Fantasy Premier League before the international break. This will be the transfer tips discussing 11 players to buy, hold, sell and skip. In fact, there'll be an extra player today to add to the watch list as well. So you've got the full coverage and also an ultimate guide for Fantasy Premier League. Keep your eyes peeled for my team selection and the best wildcard squad. They'll be published on Thursday, and you've also got the deadline stream to look forward to on the Friday, so don't be caught out by the earlier deadline. And on Saturday, I'll be doing a reaction stream and previewing Game Week 8 at that stage and discussing the Game Week 7 action up until that point. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date with my content for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. You can see the most transferred in players on screen. That includes Erling Haaland, and that comes as no surprise to anybody after that monstrous haul, and a lot of us would have triple captained him as well. Senesi, Gay, Semenyo and Gabriel are in the top 5. The likes of Jadon Anthony are also up there. He rose in price yesterday alongside Alderete and Doku. Expect plenty more price changes in terms of falls and rises over the coming days, and let's lock in our teams in the best possible way during Friday's deadline stream. Also check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, further links to my videos, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League and Spotify can also be found in the description. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. This podcast is recorded on Wednesday morning before Arsenal play Olympiacos in the Champions League, and Bukayo Saka has only played 90 minutes once this season up until this stage against Manchester United back in Game Week 1. He picked up that injury against Leeds United in the following match day, and he came off at around 52 minutes, and he made his return against Man City recently, playing 45 minutes in the second half. Then he played 63 minutes against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup to build up his match sharpness and fitness, and he played a very similar amount of minutes against Newcastle, and he was quite ineffective in that game, but the ceiling is certainly there. He only has 1 goal this season against Leeds United back in Game Week 2, 5 shots inside the box and 12 FPL points. He is a massive differential though, with 6% ownership, and it might be a blessing in disguise the fact he has blanked and not looked at his absolute best in the last couple of games. I think his best cameo and performance was against Man City in the second half, with the citizens really deep in that game and trying to defend that 1-0 lead at the time. But Saka's stats in general aren't particularly great. He has only played 4 games this season, and only 3 of them have been starts, and the minutes have been all over the place, of course, as discussed earlier. The XG is only 0.29, the XA, expected assists, is 0.34, with 1 big chance and 5 key passes, no big chance created. And at this stage last season, Bukayo Saka was leading the charts for big chance created, not just in the Premier League, but across Europe's top 5 leagues. Arsenal have a great fixture swing starting now against Nuno Espirito Santo's West Ham in Game Week 7, followed by Fulham away after the international break, Crystal Palace at home, Burnley away, and Sunderland away from home, which could definitely be classed as a more difficult fixture than it currently is on the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating. So I think Bukayo Saka is a massive differential with the consistency and the high ceiling to get some big returns over the coming weeks. He could even be considered for the captaincy, especially once he shows a bit more form and maybe the underlying stats start to look more promising. And ultimately, you want to get on players like Saka early. This is a great opportunity to be ahead of the curve, and a lot of people who are not wildcarding in Game Week 7 or 8, I think they will maybe go a few weeks more without going for Bukayo Saka, and once he gets that big return, people will flock towards him. His ownership will rise to 20-30%, but if you can get him before that happens, you can make some big strides in your mini leagues and the rankings. So I think Bukayo Saka is a great purchase for the long term. Viktor Gyökeres has been criticised by many media outlets and also rival fans for not scoring enough goals or showing enough in terms of his on-the-ball play, but he was signed for Arsenal to score goals, and especially against these kind of mid-table and maybe lower-ranked teams where Arsenal might have struggled against these teams just sitting back, Gyökeres can still be the key to unlocking them with the transitions and just scoring the chances he gets. Arsenal aren't creating enough for him, but with this fixture swing and Arsenal letting go of the handbrake, you could say, against Newcastle, I think that sets the platform and foundation for future success and scoring plenty of goals, creating chances and going to the next level as a team. And facing West Ham at home next, I think it will be more difficult now with a change of manager, but Graham Potter had a good record against Arsenal and Arteta, so I think that could actually go the other way, to be fair. And Nuno played a low block with Nottingham Forest last season at the Emirates and lost lost 3-0. So it's still possible for Arsenal to score 2 or 3 goals and for Gyökeres to get a goal or 2. I think that's certainly a possibility. And his home record has been brilliant. He just needs to work on his big game performances and also those matches away from home. But Arsenal have had a very tough start in terms of the FDR and the fixture difficulty rating, facing Newcastle away, Liverpool away, Man City at home, and as bad as they can be, Man United away is still not easy for the Gunners. So 3 goals and no assists in 6 games is still a decent return, and Gyökeres will surely add to that tally over the next 5 game weeks, and of course those fixtures still look very promising overall. Once Kai Havertz is back in a couple of months' time, we could see the minutes reduced, but that shouldn't be an issue right now. He will get 70 to 80 minutes consistently, with the odd 90-minute appearance as we saw against Newcastle, and the return of Saka is crucial for more creativity and chances. With the service being improved, Gyökeres will thrive with quality chances being provided inside the penalty area, and there will be this big debate: do we go for Gyökeres or Saka on the wild card, or with free transfers? And I think structurally, in a lot of cases, the Gyökeres move makes a lot of sense, but you have alternative forwards now like Jarrod Bowen, who looks really promising with West Ham's fixtures after the Arsenal game, and he has scored against the Gunners plenty of times before. So I think Jarrod Bowen, Joao Pedro, Erling Haaland could be your front 3, and that can facilitate Bukayo Saka in the midfield. This is something I'll discuss in the upcoming videos, including my team selection. So I don't think it's clear-cut. Gyökeres will be the template pick between the 2, but I do favour the Saka differential nature and his consistency with the goals and assist threat. He can also be on penalties, but it looks like Gyökeres will be the first choice penalty taker. I think Saka will be second and sharing those alongside Odegaard when Gyökeres isn't on the pitch, but ultimately you can't go wrong with either. Maybe having both will be an even bigger differential for you, and then having one defender at the back like Gabriel or Raya in goal, that could also work extremely well. But in the long term, I would favour that double up in the Arsenal defence over the attack. This might be the first time I've ever recommended 3 Arsenal players in the same podcast, but the fixture swing is there. They're also showing more potential. Their performances are gradually improving. I think with the City and Liverpool games, it was a bit frustrating because Arsenal could have done more in those matches and gone on to win them. But in all the other games this season, they have kept clean sheets with the exception of Newcastle, and they've scored plenty of goals and created chances. So I think Arsenal have the capability of winning most matches this season and also keeping a lot of clean sheets. Gabriel scored the winning goal against the Toon in the 96th minute. He was at fault for Voltemada's goal and he went down far too easily, but Gabriel over the years, whenever he makes a big mistake, like against Fulham a few years ago when Mitrovic scored, guess what he does? He scores in the same game and makes up for it. He's one of the best centre-backs in world football, and he has been for quite a while. He only has 1 goal this season, so Jurrien Timber was kind of the go-to pick since Game Week 2 with that massive haul against Leeds. But I think long-term Gabriel is a bit safer. Jurrien Timber could be rested on occasion for Ben White. We might even see that happen this week against Olympiacos or West Ham, whilst Gabriel should start virtually most games for the Gunners. Once Nketiah is available though, he can play as a left-back and also as the left centre-back and give Gabriel the odd rest here and there. And with Arsenal squad depth, they can afford to do that in the easier games to win on paper. In terms of defensive contributions, Gabriel has accumulated 52 actions, which is incredible for a premium defender. I think we've kind of seen this with the Tarkowskis, the Senessis and Andersons, of course. They would be better in this regard. But for Gabriel to have the goal threat, the clean sheet potential and DEFCON, which he did in several games this season, I think he's a brilliant option in this defence, and he's my favourite premium in the long term, which I also talked about. I think it's between him and Van Dijk to cover the 2 best teams in the league, but Arsenal's defence is more solid at this moment in time. So Gabriel is the favourite Arsenal pick in the defence. That is certainly not going to change after that goal against Newcastle, but now people are going to flock towards him. He's in the top 5 most transferred in players going into Game Week 7. 38 FPL points. I really needed that 13 points against Newcastle, and it kind of capped off a great week for me. His XG is 0.92, 3 shots in the box, 5 shots overall, and only 1 on target, which was the winning goal against Newcastle, and 2 big chances in just 6 games. That's very impressive for a centre-back, and Gabriel will score a few more crucial goals until the end of the season if he can stay fit. So I think Gabriel is the best Arsenal defender, my favourite premium in FPL to cover this position. He's going to get plenty of clean sheets, important goals, DEFCON, and you can't ask for much more from a defender. By this point, you might be thinking, what about a player who isn't from Arsenal to buy for Game Week 7? I think Ismaila Sarr would be perfect. Another differential with 3.8% ownership. I had him in my bloody FPL team. He scored against Villa, then picked up the injury. If it wasn't for that, I would have easily kept him, and on the wild card, he would be a serious consideration in the midfield. 3 goals this season, 4 big chances, and back in Gameweek 3, he accumulated the highest XG of any player that week, and only the likes of Haaland are kind of comfortably ahead of him in terms of the XG charts when Ismaila Sarr has been playing. 29 FPL points, even with some tough fixtures on paper like Arsenal away in Gameweek 9, Sarr can score against them. You've also got Everton away, Bournemouth at home up next, there's Brentford and Brighton, so these are quite decent fixtures with the attacking potential for Mateta and Ismaila Sarr. If you have to pick a Palace attacker, I would 100% pick Ismaila Sarr. I like Mateta and he'll be fairly consistent this season, but Sarr's ceiling is even higher and he is showing more threat in terms of the big chances and the XG, so he is a great pick in the midfield. Only 6 shots this season in 4 matches, 3 on target, 6 shots inside the box. The XG though is 2.75, which is very healthy, 1 big chance created and 2 key passes. Apart from Semenyo, who for me is the standout in the midfield, I'd put Ismaila Sarr's name right up there with the very best in the business. I think Bukayo Saka could also form part of that sort of midfield trio you're looking for, with real consistency with attacking returns. Of course, in this case, he's got promising fixtures. He is more expensive. Sarr is very accessible at 6.4 million. He will rise in price to 6.5 very soon. And I think it's a massive differential to rise up your mini leagues and the rankings. So if you want that sort of low-owned pick to make all the difference, Ismaila Sarr is the one. After being sent off against Benfica in the Champions League, this will not affect João Pedro in the Premier League, of course. We only see that being a thing in terms of the Carabao Cup, FA Cup and the Premier League. So domestic competitions, that's where these Reds will carry over, not into European competitions like the Champions League. So he is available against Liverpool. His ownership is dipping anyway because he has been quite ineffective over the last couple of game weeks with minimal XG, chances and shots. But a lot of that is influenced by the red cards Chelsea have gotten recently. Robert Sanchez against Man United for a professional last man foul. The same goes for Chalobah. That means a 1-game suspension for the Chelsea centre-back. He'll be available in Game Week 8 after the international break against Nottingham Forest away. But João Pedro is still a hold in my opinion. But if you want to go a bit differential, I think selling him to Jared Bowen in Game Week 8 could be a great option. But then you've got a nice fixture swing for Chelsea with Sunderland at home on paper in Game Week 9. So I think selling João Pedro could be slightly risky, but FPL sometimes it's about taking those risks and going for something a little bit different. João Pedro still has good stats for the season, 2 goals, 3 assists, 36 FPL points, which is second only behind Haaland amongst forwards. The XGI though is very low, 1.75, so you could argue that the returns have been unsustainable from that perspective. 2 big chances, 2 big chance created, and 7 key passes, 9 shots overall, only 3 on target, and 7 inside the box. I still think João Pedro could be on penalties in Cole Palmer's absence. There were some Chelsea fans who kind of speculated on that, saying that João Pedro gifted Enzo Fernandez the penalty against Fulham a couple of weeks back, but ultimately, when Palmer's available, and that should be in Game Week 8 or 9, João Pedro will be second or third in command when it comes to penalties. He can still get goals and assists quite regularly for Chelsea, and with those fixtures coming up, I still think it's worth holding overall. You may not believe me, and that's absolutely fair enough, but I made these graphics on the Sunday, so before West Ham even played on Monday night against Everton, and Jared Bowen was always a hold for me, especially with the new manager in Nuno Espirito Santo. You see his talismanic potential, and now he has 9 bonus points for the season. Whenever he scores, he gets maximum bonus. That's a great quality to have for a forward, and that's now 3 goals in 6 games, the same as Gyökeres, and he's also much cheaper. So I think Jared Bowen could be a nice differential up front, and on the wildcard, I'm seriously considering this sort of structure with Jared Bowen alongside Erling Haaland, and then that facilitates Bukayo Saka in the midfield. I think that could be a great long-term strategy and going against the grain and the template. This is something I'll discuss in my best wildcard team, and of course my own team selection as well. His ownership is only 6.3%. The price tag has taken a massive hit to 7.7, but for those that have Bowen, don't worry about that. I'd rather prioritize points over team value and prices. Jared Bowen is well worth it. He could still be 8 million quite comfortably. It's Arsenal away next, but he scored the winner last season at the Emirates. Then it's Brentford at home, which is a good fixture on paper, followed by Leeds away, Newcastle at home, and Burnley at home. I think Jared Bowen could be the second or third highest scoring forward over the next 5 game weeks, and until the end of the season, he'll still be right up there, probably in the top 5. He is normally a player who stays fit, who is consistent. He gets returns either as a right winger or up front. Jared Bowen just gets the job done. That's 33 FPL points for the season, so a decent kind of return overall. 15 shots for the campaign, 7 on target, 11 shots inside the box, but I have to admit, some of the other underlying stats are quite worrying. The XG is 0.87, no big chances for this season. He has created one big chance, to be fair, with 4 key passes, but the XGI is just above 1.3. So those stats are quite poor, but Jarrod Bowen is a quality player. And with these kind of quality finishes, you will get overperformance in stats. So you don't always have to take them as gospel and say, oh, I can't go for him. His XG is low. It doesn't matter because he is a quality player, one of the best right wingers in the Premier League. And Jarrod Bowen will do the job for your FPL team. Bruno Fernandes has been a thorn in my FPL prospects this season. I almost bought him in Gameweek 3, but instead I went for the Ismaila Sarr and Chris Wood route. Of course, Ismaila Sarr got injured despite scoring, and if I bought in Bruno Fernandes, I would have captained him, and that resulted in a 20-point swing. Then I buy him in for Gameweek 6, facing Brentford away. He has a penalty, and he misses it, and that's -1 point from Bruno Fernandes. Luckily, my alternative in Phil Foden also blanked, but I think he could do really well against Brentford away in Gameweek 7. Now, Fernandes does have Sunderland at home, but United might not be the favourites to win that match, which sounds crazy to say out loud, but that is the situation we live in nowadays. Fernandes has 2 goals this season, no assists, 16 key passes, and 25 FPL points. But by simply converting those penalties against Fulham and Brentford, he would be right up there with the highest scoring midfielders in Fantasy Premier League. His ownership is declining slightly, is currently 20.3%, but he shouldn't drop in price anytime soon. A blank against Sunderland, though, could change things, and going into the international break, and then they'll face Liverpool away, that could definitely change the fortunes of Bruno Fernandes, and many people might sell him by that stage. But I still think he's worth keeping for Gameweek 7, and he might get another jammy penalty and actually convert it this time. His stats are quite good this season. His XG is 3.4, but that is massively inflated from the penalties. The expected assist is 0.99, with 4 big chances, only 1 big chance created, and 13 shots overall, 5 on target. The stats are still quite healthy, and Bruno Fernandes will be one of the highest scoring midfielders in Fantasy Premier League, but he has been a massive disappointment from the penalty spot. Some people are asking for Brian Mbeumo or Cunha to take them, but they also missed penalties against Grimsby Town in that penalty shootout. I think Bruno Fernandes is still worth holding on to, potentially even long term, but if I had to pick between him or Bukayo Saka right now, I would 100% go for the Arsenal talisman in the midfield. It wasn't a huge shock to see Cody Gakpo benched against Crystal Palace, but you kind of had this feeling that maybe Liverpool could start one of Ekitike or Isak on the left. Obviously, that wasn't possible against Crystal Palace because Ekitike was suspended and he picked up an injury against Galatasaray. The same goes for Alisson, who will miss the Chelsea game. So both Liverpool and Chelsea are missing some key players in Gameweek 7. Cody Gakpo played fairly well against Galatasaray in that 1-0 defeat in the Champions League, but there is no guarantee he starts here. But I think he could be worth keeping just for Man United at home in Gameweek 8 alone. But by that stage, Ruben Amorim might have been sacked. United have a new manager and maybe a bounce, and that could make things more complicated for Liverpool. Their upcoming fixtures aren't great, but I don't think Gakpo is a priority sell. Let's put it that way. You could definitely argue he is a sell. I don't really dispute that too much, but I think over the next 2, he could still produce the return either off the bench against Chelsea, if that were to be the case this weekend, and also as a starter against Man United. He is very consistent at Anfield, but away from home, you can't really bank on Cody Gakpo getting returns. He doesn't do it as often as he does in home matches. Only 1 goal and 2 assists this season, so a really good start against Bournemouth and Newcastle with the 3 goal contributions, but he has blanked in every single game since then. The expected assist is only 0.96, so he has overperformed when it comes to the creativity. 26 FPL points, 10 shots inside the box, 15 shots overall. The XG is 0.75 with no big chances this season. I think Cody Gakpo will become a sell very soon, and I would definitely prioritise Semenyo, Ismaila Sarr, Bukayo Saka, Ndai, and all these other midfielders I've discussed in my recent wildcard videos. Phil Foden would be another one, especially for Gameweek 7. So if you can go to one of those midfielders, I'd probably sell Cody Gakpo. But otherwise, you don't have too many standouts in that position. I like Moises Caicedo, and Enzo Fernandez could be a brilliant option, especially when he plays as the number 10 in Cole Palmer's absence. So I think in a couple of weeks' time, things could change a little bit, and Cody Gakpo becomes a very clear sell. But right now, I would argue he could be worth holding on to up until Gameweek 9. Despite having a great week in FPL terms, I still made one mistake, and I had a feeling this could cost me a little bit in terms of selling Chris Wood or Watkins. And by selling Chris Wood instead, it gave me more money to buy Bruno Fernandes. So far, it doesn't look great. the alternative would have been to buy Ollie Watkins and potentially Phil Foden. And going into Game Week 7, I think that could also be the better play. So that swing could actually increase even more against me. But luckily, I triple captain Haaland, so that kind of negates the damage a little bit. But Chris Wood looks far off it. He missed a huge chance in Game Week 6 against Sunderland, and that was another defeat for Ange Postecoglou, who is winless throughout his tenure at his new club. Chris Wood has 2 goals, no assists. He's being subbed off early on a consistent basis now, and we could see Igor Jesus start in Game Week 7 against Newcastle away. Chris Wood's stats are quite decent. 16 shots inside the box, only 22 FPL points, and the bulk of that came in Game Week 1 against Brentford, courtesy of that brace. I shouldn't have bought him after that. That was a mistake of mine. He has 16 shots overall, only 6 on target, but the XG is 2.77 with 3 big chances. He is underperforming a little bit, and he was a quality finisher last season, but historically he can be quite erratic and miss some huge chances, and we are seeing that this season. So I think it's only a matter of time before he is dropped for Igor Jesus, who has been brilliant under Ange Postecoglou with 4 goals in his last 2 cup games in the Europa League and Carabao Cup. So I think Chris Wood is a sell. Marc Cucurella won Player of the Match against Benfica in the Champions League, so he delivered a massive return in UCL Fantasy, and Chelsea's fixtures turn for the better in FPL fairly soon, but I still think he's worth selling. At this price point, you want more consistency when it comes to clean sheets, and Chelsea have only kept them at Stamford Bridge. You've got a few away games in here, like Nottingham Forest and Tottenham, and their next home game is against Liverpool. Then it's Sunderland and Wolves, where I think Chelsea could keep clean sheets, but I think the likes of Gabriel and Van Dijk would be better options long term. You've also got Tarkowski for the DEFCON, but even cheaper alternatives like Senesi, who is an absolute standout right now, Joachim Andersen for some people, even though I personally wouldn't go there, even though he's really cheap and you can rotate him a little bit. I just think Cucurella is a sell right now. You've also got Mark Gay, who I talked about skipping for the Liverpool game. I was wrong about that, to be fair. I think he'd be another better option. Daniel Munoz, any Crystal Palace defender like Lacroix could also be a superior option. But Cucurella only has 1 assist in the Premier League so far this season. No goals, 2 big chances created, and 20 FPL points. That isn't good enough for a premium and template pick, so you can certainly go against the grain and pick a differential defender. Diouf from West Ham is getting plenty of assists, and with West Ham's fixtures, you could definitely go for that sort of punt at 4.4 million. Cucurella's other stats aren't particularly great. 7 key passes, the XA is 0.48, and the XG is also quite minimal at 0.22 with 5 shots overall and 2 on target. I think Cucurella is worth selling, but if you want to keep him for the fixtures, I understand that. He's still one of the best left-backs in the Premier League, but you have better alternatives at the same price tag in Gabriel and Virgil van Dijk. It's highly likely that Alexander Isak will start against Chelsea away. Ekitike is now back from suspension, but he picked up that injury against Galatasaray, so that could be a major concern for Liverpool, and Isak just hasn't really looked at it at the moment. He created a few good chances against Crystal Palace for himself. He missed those opportunities. One of them he kind of slipped and lost his balance. I think Palace defended very well in that sort of segment of the game. Isak is a quality player. He will come good. He has already scored for the club, of course, in the Carabao Cup against Southampton, but he isn't worth 10.6 million, and you can easily go for Gyökeres, Jarrod Bowen for the consistency and cheaper price tags, and that enables you to get a Salah in the midfield, Erling Haaland up front, and potentially Bukayo Saka. Not all of them simultaneously, of course. That would obviously make a very imbalanced squad, but Alexander Isak isn't worth that price tag right now. That will change at some stage, and I talked about adding him to the watch list a couple of weeks ago once it became an option and we knew his future lied with Liverpool, but he is a skip at this moment in time. You might see this as an opportunity, and I wouldn't really blame you because he was one of the best strikers throughout Europe last season, but no goals and no assists in the Premier League so far, 0 shots on target, 3 FPL points. He should get 60-70 minutes minimum against Chelsea. That might be even more if Ekitike is ruled out, but all the stats are quite poor. 2 big chances is okay considering he's only played 2 matches, and of course he hasn't started all of them, but I think Alexander Isak is a skip right now, and he might be worth considering for Game Week 8 after the international break, to be fair, but by that stage Ekitike could be available. You see rotation there again, and Liverpool haven't clicked offensively. They are still creating a lot of chances. You're going to see the goals being spread from all angles. Florian Wirtz hasn't hit the ground running. He's had a disastrous start as well, and I think with Liverpool, their best asset is Virgil van Dijk, as I covered recently, but their defence also looks quite shaky, conceding 7 big chances against Crystal Palace. They have gotten the results, of course, in most matches until this week, losing against Crystal Palace and Galatasaray. I still think they'll win most of these games coming up, but there could be a few drop points here and there, and Alexander Isak isn't worth the investment right now. If you're looking for a budget or differential midfielder, look no further than Minter, with promising fixtures on the horizon, like Wolves away in Gameweek 7. You've also got Leeds at home in Gameweek 10, and the other fixtures aren't too shabby. I think Palace away might be the toughest over the next 5 game weeks. He has 1 goal and 2 assists, and very promising stats like 10 shots inside the box. The XG is also 1.61. The expected assist is just under 1 at 0.99. 2 big chances, 3 big chance created, and 8 key passes. He also scored DEFCON in certain matches like Man City back in Game Week 3, so he can be fairly consistent and deliver 4 to 6 points on a regular basis. And as a 4th or 5th midfielder, he could be perfect for your setup, and that could facilitate Saka in the midfield or Gyökeres up front, Erling Haaland, and also a few other options here and there. Cole Palmer once he returns from injury, but that would be a slight risk, as discussed in my previous podcast. But Minter has scored 29 FPL points. This could rise to even bigger numbers very soon, especially with those fixtures. He is my favourite Brighton attacker and asset right now, even over De Kuyper in that defence, Mitoma and Danny Welbeck, who could do really well against Wolves away. So I think Minter at 5.9 million and 2.2% ownership is a great option to consider for your FPL teams. The most transferred out players going into Game Week 7 includes Mohamed Salah, and he was benched against Galatasaray in the Champions League. He will surely start against Chelsea. The same goes for Joao Pedro. I think both of them are holds, but for those that haven't got Haaland yet, I still think that Salah to Haaland switch is worth it. That's what I did in Game Week 6, and despite Bruno Fernandes being an absolute flop, it funded that Erling Haaland move, and it resulted in a massive rank rise. I basically halved my rank, which I'll talk about in my team selection. Chris Wood is 3rd. He's stinking out the gaff. He's still in my FPL team, and that was another mistake of mine this season. Chalobah and Cucurella are in the top 5. It could be worth keeping Chalobah in certain cases, to be fair, but I discussed selling Cucurella. With Chalobah missing the Liverpool game and you weren't going to start him in most scenarios, I can see why people are selling him, but it all depends on your structure, which fires you need to put out. Are you going to wildcard in Game Week 8, for example, and things like this? But ultimately, with transfers, you want to focus them, if possible, on the midfield and forward line, and there are some massive swings in terms of fixtures and points potential coming very soon, and that'll be covered in all of my content, like the best wildcard squad, the team selection, and the deadline stream on Friday. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Stay tuned for that deadline stream on Friday, a reaction on Saturday, and for UCL Fantasy, of course, we'll make more content going into Matchday 3 in a couple of weeks' time. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, for access to my videos, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. I'll see you on Friday for the next deadline stream, and keep your eyes peeled for more FPL content.